Florence is still a powerful hurricane nearing the North Carolina coastline. I'm Mike Nasa with the latest morning update on this dangerous hurricane. You can see the satellite imagery here. Obviously, Florence has weakened to a Category 2 hurricane, but it is still going to cause a lot of problems with storm surge, heavy rainfall, high surf, and very gusty winds. The rest of the tropics are kind of winding down a bit. We have Helene weakening out here. We have Joyce out here not doing a whole heck of a lot. Isaac looking very poor as it moves tropical storm force wind gusts towards the islands. And we have a feature in the western Gulf that could still potentially become a depression or storm as it heads towards Texas. But right now we're going to focus mainly on Florence this morning. Here's the latest on Hurricane Florence as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time. It was at 32.8 north, 74.7 west. Winds were still 110 miles an hour. It's moving northwest at 15, so it's a little slower than last night. And we're going to continue to see that slow down as it bends towards the west, right towards the North Carolina coast. And about 24 hours from now should be making landfall along the North Carolina coastline as a Category 2 hurricane. Still wind gusts well into the 100 mile an hour range and an increasing wind field. You can see tropical storm force winds are just impinging on the Carolina coastline, the hurricane force winds further offshore. Once it starts to move in, that slowdown is going to happen, and by Sunday and Monday this should still be a tropical depression over the Carolinas before finally starting to kick on off towards West Virginia by Tuesday. Nevertheless, it could be anywhere in this cone. It could come in a little bit further north. It could start to kind of ride the coastline towards South Carolina. Nevertheless, widespread impacts and very big flood threat. There's a beautiful water vapor image, and you can see clearly the core of the hurricane got sheared yesterday, which is why it weakened down from a Category 4 yesterday morning all the way to a Category 2 today. But it is still a powerful hurricane, a lot of energy headed for the coastline. You can see that cloud shield expanding now into into North Carolina and areas of Virginia. And again, it does appear based on this to be slowing down just a little bit, which was the prediction, and then that westward turn towards North Carolina before landfall is going to take place. Nevertheless, it's still got a lot of energy going towards the coastline. The models, again, are pretty straightforward. They're showing it kind of hanging around right as it comes in. And again, it is not the strength of a tropical cyclone that matters when it comes to rainfall. Remember 2001 Tropical Storm Allison? Harvey last year. Yeah, Harvey came in as a Category 4 to Texas, but it fell apart quickly after it came in. But the rainfall over Houston, it was only a tropical storm. So again, it's not about the strength when it comes to the flood threat with this system, especially once the center of Florence moves in. We're still talking about rainfall 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 inches perhaps in some areas of North and South Carolina, especially as the rain bands start to move in. We're going to see that rainfall increase, which is why areas like the Neuse River and any kind of inland estuaries and whatnot, you guys got to be ready for flash flooding. Not to mention the storm surge, which could be up to 13 feet in Pamlico, Pungo, Bay Rivers, Neuse River, from Cape Fear to Cape Lookout. This area of the North Carolina coastline is going to get hit with that onshore flow as the eye of the hurricane moves in. Here's the latest radar imagery, and you can see this is the radar coming out of Morehead City. The eye of Hurricane Florence showing up there with the strongest winds, of course, closer to the eye wall, and the heaviest rain still offshore but headed for Hatteras, Morehead City, and then areas like Wilmington, Cape Fear. You guys are going to have an increase in the rain starting in the next couple of hours, and it isn't going to stop, not for a while. And then, of course, areas of Myrtle Beach, Florence, ironically enough, Albemarle, this is all going to head in, and that's why we have such a significant flood threat, because you could already see that this hurricane clearly is starting to slow. It's not doing that 18 miles an hour it was doing 24 hours ago, and that's only going to get slower as it approaches the coast. The flash flood threat is still very real with this storm. You can see as it moves in and then eventually moves up, we're going to have very high rainfall. You're talking 10 to 20 inches in most areas of North and South Carolina, with those isolated amounts up to 40 inches. 40 inches of rain falling at the rate that it's going to be falling with Florence. The flood threat is very real. Remember Floyd? That was a Cat 2 when it came in, and the flooding was horrific. So again, it is not about the strength of the winds, and nevertheless, a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane is still a very powerful storm, especially when it's been building up so much energy moving across the Atlantic since the beginning of this month. Very high risk of flash flooding, especially closer to the coast, and again, this does extend to the mid-Atlantic all the way down to South Carolina. So if you evacuated from these areas, and if you're not evacuated but you're in flood zones, be on the alert and be ready to get to higher ground, because that rainfall is going to start later today and it isn't going to stop for a couple of days all the way through the weekend into early next week. Don't take your guard down just because the hurricane has weakened from a Category 4 to a 2. Florence is still a dangerous hurricane. Here's a beautiful rainbow infrared imagery. You can see again that cloud shield. Of course, the rain, as we saw on radar, is still further offshore, but it's all headed that way. And don't be surprised if this hurricane tries one last gas bed intensification over the warm Gulf Stream. It is possible. We still have a pressure down in the 950s, which is a very, very powerful storm. And again, you can see that cloud shield pointing in the direction that the upper level winds are going to take it, which is a bend back towards the west and a slowdown before landfall. So this is closing in on North Carolina. A very serious storm surge threat, a very serious high wind threat, and of course, the threat of flash flooding. Hurricane Florence is still a dangerous storm, and it needs to be treated that way until it makes landfall. I'm Mike Nasel with the latest on Dangerous Florence. I'll see you next time.